After all, the Gospels speak so vividly of conflict and teach the values with which we can overcome it.
In this video, we're going to tell you about the secret that has shaken the entire British royal family. The mystery of King Charles's unknown son. This story is something most people would never believe. But by the end of this video, you'll decide for yourself whether it's a hidden truth or just another royal cover-up. But before we dive into this royal revelation, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our exclusive royal investigations. And if you think this story deserves to be heard, smash that like button right now. So stay with us till the end and tell us in the comments what you think. Should this secret have stayed buried forever? Or did the world deserve to know? Drop your thoughts below and don't forget to share this video with anyone who loves royal mysteries. Let's uncover the truth together. It all began with whispers. Quiet, careful whispers that started inside the walls of Buckingham Palace. The king's staff had started noticing small, strange things. King Charles was suddenly more serious, more distant. He started spending time alone, often taking long walks at night. Sometimes he would lock himself in his study for hours, making private calls no one else could hear. He didn't tell anyone where he was going, and his schedule started to change without notice. One evening, a palace guard saw a car leave the palace grounds late at night. Inside the car, sitting alone, was the king himself. No driver, no security. The guard tried to report it, but was told never to speak of it again. What was the king doing at night? What if the king had been hiding something for decades? Days turned into weeks, and the whispers turned into suspicion. Everyone inside the palace knew something was going on, but nobody could say what. Then came the night that changed everything. It was late, almost midnight, when a light was seen glowing from the king's private office. Only one person was allowed inside, the royal notary who handled his personal papers. Later that night, the notary left the palace with a briefcase that looked heavier than usual. Two guards saw him leave through a side door, his face pale, as if he had seen a ghost. The next morning, one of the royal aides, while delivering tea, saw a half-burned paper on the desk. She picked it up just before a breeze blew it away. And there, in faded ink, were the words, "For my firstborn son, who was never named." She froze. Everyone knew the king's first son was Prince William. So what did this mean? Firstborn son, who was never named. Could there have been another child before William? A child the world never knew about? She quickly hid the paper, but the moment was burned into her memory. That line changed how she looked at the king forever. Rumors began spreading quietly between servants, cooks, and drivers. Some said they had always suspected something, that the king had once been close to someone before his marriage to Princess Diana. Others said it was just gossip. But one thing was certain, the atmosphere in the palace had changed. It felt heavier, colder, like a storm was about to break. And when the press got a tiny whiff of the story, the royal family knew they couldn't keep it hidden forever. But this was just the beginning. What they found next changed royal history forever. Do you believe the royal family keeps such big secrets from the world? The queen consort, Camilla, noticed it first. She saw her husband's unease, the quiet tension in his face, the phone calls he refused to answer in front of her. At first, she thought it was stress from royal duties. But then, one afternoon, as she was walking past the king's private library, she heard voices. Charles was speaking in a low tone to someone on the phone. "No, not now," he said. "It's too late. They can't know." His voice trembled. Camilla stopped. She wanted to walk away, but her curiosity held her still. The king continued, "The truth will destroy everything we've built." That night, she confronted him. "Charles," she said softly, "what truth are you hiding?" He looked at her for a long time, his eyes full of something she couldn't read. Guilt, fear, maybe both. "Camilla," he whispered, "some things are better left in the past." His hands were shaking. She stepped back. "So it's true," she said. "There's someone else." He didn't reply. Her silence turned to fear when a stranger arrived with proof. What would you do if someone appeared claiming to be a lost royal? The man arrived on a gray morning. He was tall, polite, and quiet. He said he had come from Scotland and asked to speak with the king. The guards thought he was a journalist, or maybe just a fan, until he showed them an old envelope, yellowed with age, stamped, with the royal seal from the 1980s. Inside, were 2 handwritten letters signed with a name no one recognized, but written in a handwriting that looked eerily like Princess Diana's. The letters were short and emotional. One read, "He must never know. The world would never forgive me." The man claimed that he had been raised by a woman who once worked near Balmoral Castle, and before she passed away, she told him the truth. His father was now the King of England. The guards dismissed him, but he refused to leave. Within days, he was quietly escorted to a small royal office. The king's private secretary met him. When shown the letters, even the secretary couldn't hide the shock. The handwriting was almost identical to Diana's, yet the dates were strange, written before her official engagement to Charles. Could it be real, or was it an elaborate forgery? The palace tried to keep it quiet, but someone leaked the story. Do you think this man could be telling the truth? Within 24 hours, the tabloids exploded. "Unknown man claims to be king's secret son," one headline screamed. Reporters camped outside the palace gates. People online argued nonstop. Some called it a cruel hoax. Others believed it was finally the truth behind years of mystery. Then things got worse. Late one night, several photos appeared online showing what looked like the king's will, or at least part of it. The section that mentioned, "For my firstborn son who was never named," was circled in red ink. The palace immediately released a statement calling the photos fake. But then a well-known BBC journalist claimed she had received the same document from a trusted palace source. She said she couldn't confirm if it was genuine, but the language matched official royal wording used in wills. Within hours, her hidden prince was trending across social media. People demanded DNA proof. The royal family stayed silent, but silence only made the fire grow. And that's when things spiraled out of control. Should DNA tests be allowed for royals too? In the middle of the chaos, King Charles decided to meet the man privately. No cameras, no staff, no official record. The meeting took place far from London, in a quiet cottage near Balmoral, the king's favourite escape in Scotland. Only one guard accompanied him. According to that guard, who later spoke anonymously, the meeting lasted over 3 hours. The king arrived tense and pale. The man stood up respectfully and said, "Your Majesty, I didn't come for money or fame. I just want to know who I am." He then placed something on the table, an old silver bracelet engraved with the initials CA and a date from the late 1970s. "My mother said you gave this to her," he said. Charles stared at it for a long time. The guard said the king's hands trembled as he picked it up. He whispered something under his breath, something the guard couldn't hear. Finally, Charles said quietly, "If what you say is true, then the truth will come out in my time." The man nodded. He didn't ask for anything more. When the king left the cottage, he looked visibly shaken. The next day, he cancelled all public events. The palace released a short note. "His Majesty will take private time for health reasons." But inside sources said he hadn't slept all night. He just sat by the window, holding that silver bracelet. The Queen Consort noticed it and asked, "Charles, what is that?" He didn't answer. Later, she found the bracelet hidden in his desk drawer. But the king's next decision shocked even his closest family. If you were the king, would you admit such a secret? One evening, a week after the meeting, the king called his lawyers and asked them to prepare a new private will. The instructions were handwritten by him. None of the senior palace members were informed. The lawyers were told to sign a confidentiality oath that forbade them from ever discussing the document. According to one of them, who later spoke under protection, the new will contained a mysterious clause. "For the one who carries my blood, whose truth has waited in shadows." It didn't use the word son, but everyone knew what it meant. Rumors began to reach Prince William and Prince Harry. William was furious, believing it to be nonsense that would harm the monarchy's image. Harry, on the other hand, stayed quiet, though sources said he asked his father directly through a private letter, "Is there something I should know?" The king never replied. A day later, Camilla left Windsor Castle. The palace said she was visiting a friend for personal reasons, but witnesses claimed she looked upset and tearful. One even said she was heard saying, "I can't live with another secret." The tabloids caught wind immediately. Camilla leaves Windsor. Royal crisis deepens. The story dominated every headline. Meanwhile, the man who claimed to be the king's son disappeared from public view. Some said he was forced to stay quiet. Others said the king had promised to protect him. For weeks, the media hunted for him. A photo surfaced showing someone who looked like him near Edinburgh, wearing a hat and dark glasses, entering a small cafe. But when journalists arrived, he was gone. Inside the palace, the tension reached its peak. Senior advisors begged the king to issue a denial, but he refused. "Let them talk," he said softly. "The truth will find its way." Those words left everyone confused. Did that mean the story was true? The royal press team tried everything to calm the storm. Old photos, family appearances, cheerful interviews, but nothing worked. People couldn't stop talking about the secret heir. One night, close aides heard the king pacing in his room, repeating to himself, "I thought it would never come back." No one dared to ask what he meant. Even his most loyal staff started to wonder who this hidden child could be. A real person? Or just a ghost from the past? Weeks later, an anonymous source told the press that a DNA test was being quietly arranged. The news spread like lightning. The idea that the king himself might take a secret DNA test was unthinkable. Reporters camped outside hospitals and labs, trying to guess where it might happen. The palace refused to comment, but people knew something was coming, behind the scenes. One of the king's close medical advisors confirmed that a private test was indeed done, using samples collected discreetly. The results were said to be inconclusive, but insiders claimed otherwise. They said the king's expression when he saw the report said everything. He closed the folder slowly, sighed deeply, and whispered, "It's him." After that, the king avoided public appearances even more. He spent long hours at Windsor, walking in the garden alone. Servants said he looked older, weaker. Some said he had lost his appetite, eating only soup and tea. Others said they saw him writing letters by candlelight, sealing them in envelopes marked with a red royal stamp. No one knew who those letters were for. Then something unexpected happened. A private conversation between the king and one of his advisors was accidentally overheard by a staff member. The king said quietly, "One day, the world will know the truth. But not while I'm alive." The staff member told a friend, and within days the quote was everywhere. "Not while I'm alive" became the phrase that set the internet on fire. Everyone wanted to know what truth the king was hiding. Meanwhile, Prince William was growing frustrated. He wanted to protect the monarchy's reputation, but every move they made only made things worse. He reportedly said in private, "If this story is true, it will destroy everything." But Harry's friends told the media that Harry was more open to the idea. "If there's someone out there who's our brother," he said, "he deserves to be known." The British public was divided. Some said this was just another tabloid fantasy. Others were convinced it was real. People compared photos of the mysterious man to young Charles, pointing out similarities in their eyes and nose. Online forums filled with theories. Was this man really a lost royal, or just a clever imposter? Through all this chaos, the king stayed silent. But silence can sometimes be louder than words. Every day that passed without denial made people believe the story more. Reporters dug deeper into the past, finding strange coincidences, old travel logs, missing records, and names of women who once worked near the royal estates. It was as if pieces of a puzzle were slowly falling into place. By now, months had passed since the first whisper. The palace had become a fortress of secrets. Camilla rarely appeared in public. William carried on with official duties, his jaw tight, his smile forced. And the king looked like a man carrying a heavy, invisible weight. Finally, one night, according to someone very close to him, the king sat in his chair and said softly, "I made choices I thought would protect everyone. Maybe I was wrong." The next morning, he cancelled all engagements and issued a quiet order. No calls, no visitors, no press. That same day, one of his advisors received a handwritten note from him. It said, "If this is true, the truth will come out in my time." The advisor didn't understand what it meant, not until hours later, when news broke that Queen Camilla had left Windsor again, this time indefinitely. The palace released a short statement. "Her Majesty is taking personal time for reflection." But everyone knew what that really meant. She was heartbroken, and now the rumors exploded once again. London was buzzing with one question. Had the king finally confirmed the existence of a secret son? Nobody knew for sure, but people could feel that something big was about to happen. The royal family had faced scandals before. but never one like this. One that could change the bloodline itself. And as the palace stayed silent, the whispers grew louder. Some said the king was preparing to reveal everything himself. Others said the truth had already been buried, hidden inside a sealed DNA report locked away from the world. But one thing was clear: the next revelation would not just shake the monarchy. It would change it forever. Because the DNA discovery that followed changed everything. What do you think the DNA test showed? The DNA test began in complete silence. No official papers, no public announcements, no leaks from the palace staff. It was done quietly, in a way that only a handful of people even knew it was happening. Late one evening, under the pretense of a medical checkup, the king's personal physician collected a small DNA sample. At the same time, another sample was quietly taken from an old medical file belonging to the man who claimed to be the king's lost son. Both samples were sent to a private laboratory in London, known for its absolute discretion. The results were to be sent directly to the king's personal secretary in a sealed red folder marked Top Confidential. When the results arrived, the king was sitting in his study at Windsor Castle. The folder was placed in front of him without a word. For a long moment, he just stared at it. The red seal looked heavier than wax. It felt like the weight of an entire dynasty pressing down on his shoulders. He finally broke the seal, opened the folder, and read the first line. His face went completely still. Then, he closed the folder carefully, placed it on the table, and whispered, "It's true." But someone inside the palace couldn't stay silent any longer. Would you risk your job to tell the truth? The next morning, the world woke up to a shock. A well-known journalist received an anonymous email with a single attachment, a scanned page from a laboratory report showing a 98% DNA match between King Charles and the unnamed man. The journalist verified it with 2 scientists, and both agreed that such a match could only mean one thing: biological father and son. Within hours, the news spread like wildfire across social media. Hashtags like Chio Hidden Prince, Vatroj Royal Shock, and Hodsestone of the Crown began trending worldwide. News channels ran special segments. Everyone wanted to know, who was this man, and why had the royal family hidden him for so long? The palace tried to control the damage, releasing short statements denying any unauthorized DNA testing, but the damage had already been done. Every denial sounded weaker than the last. The story had escaped their walls and was now in the hands of the world. Yet behind those walls, panic reigned. Advisors argued day and night about how to handle it. Some said the king should come clean before the press twisted the story even more. Others warned that any confirmation would cause a constitutional crisis. But deep inside, the king already knew that the truth was beyond control. And as the world debated his bloodline, the royal family itself began to fracture. But the palace was preparing for damage control. Do you think they'll ever admit it publicly? When Prince William saw the headlines, he immediately called his father. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes, but left both men shaken. "Tell me it isn't true," William demanded. There was a long pause on the other end. "Some things," Charles finally said, "should remain between heaven and me." William's voice cracked with frustration. "You're the king. Nothing stays between heaven and you." He hung up before the king could answer. Prince Harry, living abroad, stayed silent. But sources close to him said he had written a letter to his father, a letter that was never made public. In it, he reportedly said, "If there's truth, then it deserves light. I know what it's like to live with secrets." The king received the letter, but never replied. The 2 brothers stopped speaking for weeks. It was as if the family had been split by an invisible wall, built not from politics or power, but from truth itself. What the king said next broke the internet. How would you feel if you discovered a secret brother? As pressure built, the king could no longer avoid the world. After days of silence, the palace announced a special televised address, one that hadn't been planned on any royal calendar. The announcement itself sent the country into a frenzy. People stayed home, televisions glowed in living rooms across Britain, and millions tuned in to see what the king would say. When he finally appeared, he looked older than ever. His eyes were tired, his voice soft but steady. "My fellow citizens," he began, "every family has stories buried deep in time. Some are glorious, others are painful. The choices of youth may cast long shadows on the days of age." He paused, his hands trembling slightly on the desk. "I have always believed that duty comes before self. But even kings are human." He didn't name anyone. He didn't confirm or deny the story, but his expression said enough. For a few seconds, the silence between his words was louder than anything else on TV. When he finished, he simply said, "May the truth, whatever it may be, bring peace to all involved." The reaction was immediate. Some saw it as a confession, others as a poetic denial. The internet exploded again, half praising his honesty, half accusing him of hiding the truth behind fancy words. But the hidden son himself decided to speak out. Do you think the king's silence is acceptance or denial? Only 2 days later, a new video appeared online. It was posted from an unknown account, but quickly went viral. The man who claimed to be the king's son sat in a quiet room, looking directly into the camera. His voice was calm. "I didn't want fame. I didn't want attention. I only wanted to know the truth about my life." He held up an old photograph of his mother, a woman smiling in front of Balmoral Castle decades ago. "She told me my father was a man who couldn't be mine in public," he said softly. She never wanted to hurt anyone. He then showed a small wooden box filled with letters, photos, and a single bracelet, the same one the king had once held. "I don't hate him," he continued. "He made choices. I just needed to know why." The video ended with him saying, "I am not asking to be part of the royal family. I just want my story to be true." Within minutes, millions watched the video. People started to see him not as an intruder, but as someone caught in the crossfire of royal secrets. Public sympathy grew, and the palace started losing control of the story. Would you forgive the royal family for hiding this? Weeks passed and tension filled every headline. Then one morning, a new twist appeared. A leaked letter, supposedly written by Queen Camilla, began circulating in the media. It was dated only days before she left Windsor. In it she wrote, "Charles, I have stood beside you through storms, but this one cannot be weathered in silence. The world deserves your truth, and so do your sons." The handwriting matched hers perfectly. Whether real or not, the impact was devastating. Talk shows debated it non-stop. Newspapers claimed she had left the palace permanently, unable to bear the burden of a secret that had grown too large. The royal image that had taken years to rebuild was now falling apart, piece by piece. But then came the twist no one expected. Can a secret destroy the world's oldest monarchy? Behind closed doors, the king made one final decision. He called his lawyers once again, the same ones who had prepared his private will before. This time, he dictated a new clause himself, written in his own hand, to be added at the very end of the document. It said simply, "To my son, whose truth cannot be erased." Nothing more, nothing less. When his lawyers asked for clarification, he said quietly, "History will know what it means." He signed the papers, sealed them, and placed them in a vault beneath Buckingham Palace. A week later, the mysterious man disappeared from the public eye. No one knew where he went. Some believed the palace had sent him away for his safety. Others said he left the country on his own, tired of the chaos. Sightings came from Ireland, from Canada, even from Australia, but none were confirmed. Every now and then, someone would post a blurry photo online, claiming to have seen him, the so-called hidden prince. The British media began calling it the secret heir case. Books were written, documentaries were planned, and conspiracy theories multiplied like wildfire. Some claimed the man had been given a new identity by the palace. Others said he had met the king one last time before disappearing forever. No one knew for sure. Inside the royal family, things were never the same again. William focused on royal duties, keeping the monarchy stable, while Harry quietly avoided the press, refusing to comment. Camilla remained mostly out of sight, appearing only at formal events with a distant expression. The king himself grew quieter with each passing week, rarely speaking, except for official ceremonies. In one of his last public remarks, during a charity event, he said something that made the crowd pause. "Truth," he said, "is the one crown we all carry. It cannot be taken, only delayed." People clapped politely, but those who had followed the story understood the deeper meaning. The words sounded like a farewell, not to his crown, but to his secret. Years later, historians would still argue about what really happened. Was there truly a hidden son? Did the king confess indirectly through his will? Was the DNA test authentic? Officially, the palace archives sealed all related documents for 100 years, meaning no one alive today will ever see the original reports. But the red folder, the one marked Top Confidential, was never found again. Some believe it was destroyed. Others whisper that it was locked in the same vault where the king kept his will. As time went on, the story faded, replaced by new scandals and new generations. Yet sometimes, during quiet nights, people claim to see a man who looks strikingly like the king. Same posture, same smile. Walking through small British towns, blending in as if he had always belonged there. Maybe it's imagination, or maybe the truth never really hides. It just changes its address. And so the story of the hidden heir became part of royal legend, a story told in whispers, in books, in late-night discussions among those who still believe the monarchy has more secrets than crowns. Some say the king's final words on his deathbed were, "Tell him I was proud." Others say he never spoke of it again. What remains certain is that one signature, one line in a royal will, changed the meaning of family. Duty and truth forever. It showed the world that even in the grandest palaces, beneath the gold and jewels, there are stories that beat like quiet hearts. Unseen but alive, and to this day, no one knows where their unknown son went, or whether he still watches the palace from afar, wondering if his father ever truly accepted him. Do you think the world deserves to know the full truth? Or should some royal secret stay buried forever?